Sorry. So we are live now. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Thank
agreeing
you.
to be a part of this at such a short notice. I mean, thank you so much for making this happen. I'd like to first thank Jairangam for giving us this space and they've been really kind to us. The reason why we wanted to have this again is the reason why we started AIDBEES is so that social kindness becomes a household thing where people are not hesitant to talk about the kindness, good work that they do. Uh, we do believe, and honestly, I at personal level do believe that everybody wants to, is capable, and is looking out to do good things most of the times. One may not know what kindness is, what to do, and how to do it. So, I personally, I feel most people have these three things is what keeps people from doing good work and doing kindness. The aim of today's panel discussion is to informally, in a chit chat manner, to see if we can, at our personal level, see how kindness can be done. And how I have planned this is I know I did send out some lead questions to you, but I'm not going to ask those questions. What I would like to start us with is if we can, at a personal level, share how we got to a kindness space, whether it is in your personal space you want to discuss or at a professional level, wherever, whatever makes you feel comfortable. How do you think, what was that trigger that brought you to think of and to think that you're in a kindness space? Um, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I would. Can I just start by how I see you all on the screen? Yeah. So I can see Ranu on my right, and so I'm going to start with Ranu. I would like to keep it short and simple and sweet. So let me say about 2 minutes, if that's okay. Yeah. But
Uh,
if anybody has anything to say, let's have the courtesy and the thing to let people speak, and then we'll. But I don't want it to become 101 also. We can have a discussion around it. So let's start. Yeah. Okay.
so,
Ranu.
yeah. I think I've been when I was a child, I was sensitive, but I never, if for social work as such, going into the, taking it up as my master's was a career choice. So it was more of, okay, ultimately you have to work, and so I picked up social work, and but at the same time, while I was pursuing social work, I realized that this is the space I really want. I feel I can make some difference, and gradually, while you look at it as your career choice, but you also get enough of exposure and experience, which further, builds develops that conviction that you really want to be in this space, and you feel that confident that you can make difference. So that started. um, so and also the fact that when I got married to Asif, and that was the beginning of my, you know uh, when you try to marry a person from a different faith, and which at that time, 20 years back, things were better in any case. But at the same time, a lot of issues around gender choices, decisions that women make, and how we as because both of us came from the same space, how we can make a difference. So Dhana happened. So while I was working with corporates, NGOs, UN organizations, uh, we were going out, and obviously empathy develops. You realize what is to be done. But at home, back at home, we were also working on Danak, which is our now our organization. We started it as a group. So I think that's what it was. That's how it all started, and I'm happy that when you get into the kind of this space, it is so enriching that each day you become wiser, and you try to it is such a mutually satisfying experience of having bringing some difference to lives, but at the same time you become so. When I'm going to the field talking to the children, I come back as a better mother. I personally feel, because I'm able to make my children sensitive enough. They're more empathetic, and you can see, look at it. So I personally feel it is a very, very mutually gainful relationship, and yeah, just to sum it.
That's great. And I know from a personal experience that Dhanak over the years has done a fantastic job. I am associated with them. We were part of the same journey, and it's grown into a beautiful organization and hope it continues. Mr. Jajoo, uh, if you could share your experiences with us.
Yeah, sure. Uh, I started my journey in 2000. Basically, I'm a son of a cardiologist. My father was a cardiologist, great cardiologist, passed away last year. And we decided, means my father always used to say that do something good at an age when you can, continue it for a longer time. Otherwise, once you start it at a later age and think about कि मैं 60 साल में शुरू करूंगा तो समय नहीं रह जाता. So with all that, I started this work in 2000 when I was just 40, and at that time there was a huge earthquake आया था भुज के अंदर. बहुत प्रॉब्लम हुई थी, उससे हमने शुरुआत की. एंड एट दैट टाइम आई रियलाइज दैट कुछ भी अच्छा करो तो कारवा बनता चले जाता है, लोग सपोर्ट को साथ में आ जाते हैं. And exactly that happened, and that is how we started Jagrati with a lot of friends of mine. I started it, and fortunately, बस उस तब से धीरे धीरे ग्रेजुअली हम लोग आगे चलते चले गए, और बहुत अच्छा लगने लगा. इट बिकेम अ पैशन. जैसे कहते हैं ना, बिजनेस करते वक्त भी मन ज्यादा आपका इसी पे होता है कि कैसे हम लोग बच्चों की एजुकेशन पे हम लोग वर्क कर रहे हैं. And we have right now 17 schools in slums of Jaipur and Ajmer, and with 4,500, around 4,500 children are with us, and it's really, really wonderful journey all through. And for future, I really wish that जितने भी बच्चे स्लम्स में, बिकॉज स्लम्स में तकलीफें सबसे ज्यादा हैं, ऐसा मुझे हमेशा लगता है. बिकॉज एक कहीं से भी बेचारे कुछ लोग उठ के आते हैं, कोई कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट पे आते हैं, वहां पे कुछ काम कर रहे होते हैं और फिर वो वहीं बस जाते हैं. और न तो हेल्थ का कुछ हो पाता है उनके लिए, न उनका एजुकेशन का कुछ हो पाता है. बड़ी बड़ी फैमिली एक झुग्गी झोपड़ी में रह रही हैं और बहुत तकलीफ में हैं. तो मुझे हमेशा लगा कि उनके लिए वर्क करना चाहिए. So we are taking care of 17 slums in Jaipur, and there's a lot to do. कोई एंड नहीं है उसका. बट आई एम हैप्पी कि जिस लेवल तक हम लोग कर पा रहे हैं, हम बहुत खुश हैं उससे. And fortunately, we have got a huge volunteer team with us. The school children, a lot of school children. We have got almost 2,600 volunteers with us who are working for Jagrati right now. So it's been a great, wonderful journey, and fortunately got support from all over the government and everyone. And that's what this journey is. With this, we are also into one more thing, that is, we have called it Jagrati Antim Darshnika. इसके अंदर किसी भी घर में कभी भी अनफॉर्चुनेट डेथ हो जाती है तो वी सेंड अ मशीन कॉल, we call it Jagrati Antim Darshnika. It's very popular in Jaipur. That is an air conditioned freezer. We send it to the house for 1, 2, 3 days, and it's a 24/7 free service for complete Jaipur. And that's what we are doing. And we are into other works also. I'm associated with the organ donation work and other works. Means overall, but I feel that the base of everything is education. If children are educated, then the next generation is definitely more comfortable if they are given value based education. And that's what we try. Try to give them value based education, not
So
just simple
true.
education.
So
So
true.
that.
education is definitely our one thing. I guess we all will agree to that education is the foundation stone. So,
Yeah.
Manisha, would
So
you like
that's
to
what.
share?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Manisha.
Thank.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Amma, thanks for that. I think, I come from a pure corporate background, even in terms of my personal background. And frankly, my moment of epiphany probably came much later than all the other people on this panel. And that was a few years ago when, with my son, I was discussing something, and my help, who helps us, needed just such a comfortable life. Her son, who's the same age, was also in the house. And both of them went to schools in Bombay. But the stark difference between the two children on account of the quality of education intervention that they were getting was really a eureka moment for me. I might sound extremely foolish, but perhaps I was living in my privileged bubble, so to speak. And I realized that, my God, the amount of exclusion which happens visibly and invisibly in front of us. And sometimes we just don't know that it is there. So for me, that was really a moment where I realized that I have to find some way, wherever I can, give back in my sphere of influence. And I think that really sort of started my, I would say, self-awakening in a sense. I'm still very new to that journey, so I think a long way to go. But I think a start has been made at personal level for sure. So that is, my two bits.
No, it's true. Sometimes it's right there in front of you, and we're not able. I mean, most of the time we ignore it, I would say, and it's not ignored that we ignore it knowingly. It's just that it is so part of our life that it just seems so normal. And I guess, as you said, every little bit counts, and we have to try and see if we can make that normal a bit. Think of it as not being normal anymore. Havovi, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Zama. I actually resonate so much with what Manisha was saying just now, because I think sometimes it's the smallest things in our immediate, environment, or something that we hear suddenly that pops the light bulb for us. My journey into what we are calling, the social kindness space is a little bit gone all over the place before it came to where I am right now. And it began really, I think, with the fact that I read a lot of fiction. And if you read fiction, you cannot but help develop a sense of empathy for people who are not like you. I believe that very strongly. And I think it began, or the journey began at that stage for me. But I think the three main steps were: one, that I had the privilege of beginning my career in the development sector after 4 years of teaching and 4 years in financial services. I began with a role at Child Rights NU at CRY. And at that time, I learned a lot about just the politics of deprivation, why some people and how some people get left out, and what it what it could be, what that experience could be in that position and not be able to move oneself out of it despite one's best attempt. You know, and that sense of social justice developed for me because of the work that Pride did during those years, and because of the kind of people I was surrounded by. I learned so much from them. But subsequently, two things happened, because in those days, I was a bit much younger than I am, of course. And the tendency is to become a bit rara about social justice, right? And I think I realized in the years after that there are two things that are really important. This whole notion in the apartheid movement, right, of truth and reconciliation. That yes, of course, the justice is important, but at some point there has to be a time when we are able to have two very different people engage as human beings together, and that without that you cannot move forward. If we're always going to be antagonistic towards each other, there isn't a point at which you move forward. And if you want to do that, then there is a way in which truth has to be spoken. And I think that began for me to make a great shift from, and began to help me to see that justice and kindness are two things, huh? The same thing actually.
No,
And I think, sorry, so
no, I
just
said that's true. No, no worries.
And the whole notion that last thing that really mattered to me and really hit it home for me, this whole point, is what Harsh Mandar talks about in his book called Looking Away. He talks about empathy. And he basically says, if we had empathy, would we be able to sleep knowing that a kilometer away some child has gone to bed hungry? I think that's really what it comes down to, you know. And that's why I'm saying the journeys are personal, that you think you're in the development sector, that you're doing the work, but actually it's what hits you in your gut, you know, from what you see and what you read and what you witness, really.
No, so true. And I resonate with that. I remember, I mean, again, did the social work course and everything, but I don't think I really came to it till I was working in Punjab. And, Punjab was coming out of conflict and Kashmir was starting. And that's when I think, because it was home to me, and my work in Punjab is, I was like, why am I sitting in Punjab? Why am I not in Kashmir? This work that I'm doing in Punjab, not that it was not needed, it was, of course, needed. But till the time, it didn't occur to me at that point in time that no, this is personal and I need to do more than this. And I think that's where my journey started, honestly. This was, I think, 2-3 years into social work, into work and everything. But I don't think the empathy and what you said, really connection didn't happen till I realized that I need to move beyond Punjab and make it more personal to myself. Ritu, would you like to go?
Yeah, sure, Zama. So, it's interesting when I hear everybody, and I do resonate a little bit with Manisha, and I do resonate a little bit with Huai, because, and if I go back to our test days, Zama, when we were studying together, I really didn't think in a very structured manner that what I will work or what I would be doing would have a connect with social kindness. I really didn't even think about those words. Um, and I moved into human resources uh, with, of course, just one thought that I would want to work to make with people to make things better for people. I think that's what drove me to take up a job in the corporate sector with, human resources. The first 10 years, of course, were fairly like any normal and any regular HR professional working on different processes within an organization. And I think for me, at a personal and a professional level, social kindness, which in my parlance or in my mind's dictionary means empathy, became alive when I started working on inclusion and diversity. And hadn't it been for inclusion and diversity coming into India in 2010, I don't think I would have survived working in the corporate sector or working in human resources for the last 22 years. The work that we do in inclusion and diversity, uh, allows us and pushes us to constantly be in other people's shoes and build that sense of empathy and understand the fine difference between empathy and sympathy. Uh, Through various situations at work, when you dealt with single fathers, mothers, new parents, people with disabilities, people from the pride community, and how they are accepted, included, and integrated into workplaces and work teams, is when I little by little started understanding. I really would not say I understand this space completely. I think it's a journey and it's a constant, every time you are in a situation, there is that little more of uh, the bulb that lights up saying, oh my God, I didn't realize this. I recently, though I've worked, as I said, I've worked since 2010 in the space of inclusion and diversity. And this is the one, recently for a summer project, I had a young boy from TIS who was working with me, and he was visually impaired, uh, a brilliant boy, and he actually even got a job with the Tata Sons post the project. But while I was working with him, I kept telling him, Ganpati, try to visualize this. And he kept pushing me back, saying, I'm sorry, I'm unable to visualize it. Uh, that little thing, that very small thing helped me realize that even the language that I use, or has to be in a different space, has to be in a different way. So I feel uh, there was no one big moment. There have been and there will be constantly those moments of truth that keep you alive and that keep me alive to being conscious about this. Um, what I'd just like to lastly say is, I think corporates today, in a way, in a sense, have started their journeys in the space of empathy, in the space of inclusion. There's a very, very long way to go, because first you need to change your home, first you need to change your mind to be able to change those in workplaces. But somewhere the journey has begun. And to me, I think I feel more strong when I moved into a job with the Tatas, because I think as a corporate, uh, social kindness is what is their foundation. If I go back to words that our founder said, if I go back to the whole, uh, the whole Jamshedpur, right, is nothing but social kindness. So, to me, I think this just gives me that great impetus, or gives me that strength to be able to make those changes, and hope that workplaces and homes beyond the workplaces and communities would be more accepting and inclusive.
Yeah, so true. So thank you so much, Ritu. Hello, can you hear me? Pratibha, hello? Suddenly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Pratibha,
Yeah.
let's hear you now.
Yeah, so I think I started off very differently from all of you all. I lost my father at the age of 1. And I had a mother who had to bring me up with an iron hand, but she had the kindest of hearts. And I experienced that kindness through my growing years. And I would see that kindness not just towards me, but towards the community. For a mother who was a widow at 33, she had a very sensitive approach, empathetic approach. If there was a flood, or as Mr. Jajoo said, the Bhuj earthquake, she was always writing out small checks, whatever she could afford. And she would feel very happy about it. So I think I picked it up there. And then it kind of got fueled when I was in my student years. One of my very dear friends was visually challenged. And I used to read to her every evening. We would come home from college and her parents were working. She would tell me that, since we've sort of chatted and, enjoyed our evening, last 1 hour, can you just read what we went through in the 4 lectures today? And I realized very soon, as, one of the speakers has said, that when you try to do something for someone else, you come out so enriched, because during the exams, I would see my friends sitting up, burning the midnight oil, and I didn't have to do that because I had already read to her as a revision immediately after it was taught. So it kind of was sticky learning in my head. And that made me sort of very, very sensitized to people who were in need, not necessarily visually challenged, but just anyone in need. And then, of course, my teaching journey, we have quota systems, and I used to head a management program. And a lot of students came in on quotas at the undergraduate level. And they would come from a Marathi medium school, and we would put them in groups, random groups. And I remember in my first month, one of the girls came up to me, and I was teaching communication at that time. And I had given them a book review project. And she came up to me with this thick book of Shiv Khera's translated version in Marathi, You Can Win. And she said, look, madam, you put me in a group. I'm very uncomfortable. They speak English mile a minute, and I'm not able to do that. So I will present this book in Marathi solo. And I said to her, I said, Samiksha, how can you do that? You're in an undergraduate management program, and the language of business is English. So that was actually the true turning point in my life. While I had been sensitized earlier, I used to sit with her. I knew she couldn't help what she was saying. So I used to call her into my office along with a couple of others after teaching hours. and we would sit for a couple of hours transliterating every subject for her wherever she had a problem. And within a year, she was topping the class in various subjects. Her confidence improved, and it gave me such a high, an adrenaline high, that I thought that's going to be my purpose in life, that any life that crosses my path, I must impact it. So then, of course, I think the dean discovered that as well. And she put me in charge of all the underprivileged students, because 25% would come from these backgrounds. So I would sit with them and sort of train them in English. And then I realized that one of these girls came up to me one day and said, "You've put me in a group with one of the business tycoon's sons." And she said, "I went to his house to do the group project, and his servant quarter is bigger than the house in which my mother works." And again, it was this, this was way before the diversity and inclusion mantra became a buzz thing in our country. So that again sort of shook me up a little, and I said, okay, I need to sensitize the rich people. And that was the journey of Project Chirag. We started getting children to participate in social activities. And one of them was a teaching thing, which also is still running. And the other was Project Chirag, where we took them to rural India and made them understand the challenges faced. And I think that journey for me has been so uplifting. Every student who's been part of this journey with me has experienced the same high. Our students also benefit, It's not just being good makes you get onto a high. All those students who helped me encapsulate this project in the early stages were the preferred choices of companies like Google, B schools like SP Jain. They would get in only based on that part of their resume. So I've always said that social service and social kindness is really a process of alchemy. Like you all said, there is good inside everyone's heart. But if you can try to sort of bring out that gold and shine, social service is the way. Kindness is the space. That's my turn.
So true, Pratibha. Thank you for sharing that. I think we've gone around the room, and I have to say it's definitely been each one's personal journey, and so enriching in every manner, whether it was Manisha's son or me working in Punjab or anything else, but it's been so personal. But what makes me wonder now is that we've gone through this journey, and I can easily say all of us have been there 22 years, if not more. And suddenly now we're at a journey where where the journey seems to need to change or may have to change. Definitely, I'm referring to this year, that hopefully we will see a new year and things will change. But it's not going to leave us so easily in terms of in our minds and in our hearts. I say hearts because it has touched everybody. I don't think there is anybody who's not been touched, whether in the good way or bad way. I'm not in a position to comment on that. But definitely it has changed us all. And I was speaking to Mr. Jajoo this morning, and I was telling him how, for me, the fact that so much family time, whether it's been good or bad, I don't know, but it's been a learning to have so much family time. A nuclear family where 4 of us were together morning to evening has been a learning for me. How do we go ahead from here? I don't know, but yes, we'll have to move on. But I would like to spend a little time on this and see, after our 25 years of working in the social kindness field and having worked consciously and unconsciously on it, where has this 1 year taken us? Where do you think we are at a personal space? And I'm opening it to everybody. I'm not going to make it you speak. Let's just make it a little more informal. And whoever is willing to talk about your last 1 year, please go ahead.
So I'll go, Sama, if that's
Yes,
fine.
of course.
Yeah. So, at a personal level, of course, I think by the grace of God, I think we were doing well, and I really didn't struggle because the work kept me alive. Um, and when you work in the space of inclusion, you work a lot with people's minds and the behaviors and how they see people, right? Different than who they are. We practitioners struggled with a lot of things in the way that people accepted, whether it was working from home, whether it was being kind to people who are different than who you are, being kind to women who came back from maternity, being kind to a man whose parents had ailing family, being kind to various such situations with your team members. To us, again, this pandemic actually made kindness almost hygiene, if I may call it. That if you were not kind, you would not be able to reach out to people through the screen that we are currently speaking on, right? That's how we've interacted with people across this whole year. It was only kindness, because starting from the boy who makes tea in your office to your MD or your chairman, everyone could have gone through COVID, could have been hospitalized, could have had was working from home through a laptop in the same manner, and was doing jadu pocha, and was doing cooking and managing home and work. So, in a sense, it was the equalizer at work. It kind of broke a lot of myths that you cannot do this from this place, you cannot remotely work. It actually opens up talent to so many people who are unable to come to jobs. It makes it easier. Not all workspaces are accessible to people with disabilities. If you have to work remotely, it can open up a huge talent pool. Not all workplaces are open to remote working and working from home. The last 9 months has almost proved that 60% of jobs can be done from where you are sitting. It really does not matter that you need to go to office. It opens up again opportunities for so many women who have dropped off post maternity, post marriage, post life stages that have hit them. So coming from where I am, and maybe I am putting my blinkers on because this is my work, this is my role. But coming from where I am, I'm happy in a sense, in a strange way. I'm happy that uh, the leaderships, the people who make the decisions, have seen that this is possible, and then now our struggle to get there would be easier. That's all. Yeah.
That's so true, so true. Everything has its pluses and minuses. Manisha, you wanted to go?
Yeah, no, I agree actually with Ritu, but I would want to caveat it a little and just provoke a conversation here. I think probably the fortunate among us who are in the structured informal sector have really benefited from this. I have, I could work from home and homeschool my children. Um, just speaking from my personal space, I saw that, for example, our building decided to overnight, and even now has tremendous restrictions on help coming in. And a lot of affluent people like us have stopped paying out salaries. Diwali bonuses, let's forget about that this year. We're more concerned about sourcing organic vegetables for ourselves. I'm being very candid here, and I'm sorry if I'm being offensive, perhaps, but I think while on the one hand, yes, it's been an equalizer, as Ritu rightly said, a lot of us are now working from home, but I think it's also excluded and pushed people on the margins even further. And that's why I feel that I think maybe there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of a mindset and cultural change, which NGOs can do, which organizations like yours, panels like ours can do in actually stimulating this conversation.
Absolutely. I
So
would
true.
tend to agree.
Yes.
I
Sorry,
I also completely agree
Jajoo
with
wanted
what.
to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Please, if I tell you about this 1 year on a personal level, it was something wonderful because I had my granddaughters with me. My daughters, both the daughters were here, and we had a great time because I never means had that 150 days with them, enjoying. One is just 6 and one is 11, so I had a real great time. And then my son got married, and my daughter-in-law came in the house, and that's another fantastic time I'm having with her. And but yes, if you ask me professionally or if you ask me outside, it was a very challenging year, very challenging year, especially for my 4,500 children, to manage them. Actually, हर सुबह उनको घर से लेके आते थे पहले, और वापस से वो एक साल से घर में हैं, और कितने चैलेंजेस वो उन कच्ची बस्तियों में फेस कर रहे हैं, उन झुग्गी झोपड़ियों में फेस कर रहे हैं. इट्स रियली, पूरी रेंज निकल गई. रेंज में कैसे उन्होंने अपने घरों के अंदर वो रह के अपनी जिंदगी जिए हैं, इट वाज रियली डिफिकल्ट. बहुत कोशिश की है कि घरों में उनके खाना पहुंचाएं, घरों में राशन पहुंचाएं, बट स्टिल वापस से वो बच्चे कैसे स्कूल आएंगे, उनको ऑनलाइन पढ़ाई कराएं. Almost 27, so 2,700 children are studying online. It was very difficult for us, our teachers. We have almost 120 teachers on our roll. So it was a very difficult year. Plus, we were doing a lot of work with the government hospitals. We were providing for doctors and for paramedical staff, almost 2,000 doctors and paramedical staff and COVID patients. We are providing for almost 8 months now. Coffee, dinner, lunch, everything. We are going to the hospital. So it was a tough and a challenging year, and especially for children, because they are really in a problem, because पेरेंट्स को जो ऑलरेडी काम करते थे, जॉब नहीं है, खाने को घर में रोटी नहीं है, कैसे वो लोग जाएंगे. तो उनके लिए बहुत खराब साल निकला ये, और अभी भी निकल रहा है. बहुत तकलीफ में हैं वो लोग. कुछ बच्चे तो yesterday only I came to know that there was a cute little girl. I know her personally, and because of such problems, she didn't share with anyone, and she did suicide at the age of 11. So I was really upset about her, and such things are happening, and it makes me really sad that इतना सालों की एक मेहनत थी, और बच्चे वापस से कैसे वो स्कूल आएंगे और किस तरीके से वो इन तकलीफों से बाहर निकल पाएंगे, वो बहुत मन को वेदना भी है, तकलीफ भी है. But God is there, and I'm sure things will really come back, because the real problem is with this slum children and slum people. जो लोग घरों में नौकरी करते थे, उनकी नौकरियां निकल गई. जो लोग फैक्ट्रीज में काम करते थे, फैक्ट्रीज नहीं चल रही हैं. जो कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट्स पे काम करते थे, वो साइट्स रुकी पड़ी थी. So a huge problem. They don't have any cash balance. वो 5,000 कमाते थे, खाते थे और जिंदगी चलाते थे. So तकलीफ बहुत ज्यादा है, to be very honest, as a challenging year. Yes.
Ranu, you were saying something before. Ranu, you're on mute.
No, I completely agree. While yes, we realize that most of the organized sector was very agile, and and it has really made our lives much better. But I also realized that there were both the sides of what we saw around. One was uh, we saw a lot of people coming out to help. I think this is the first time in my lifetime I realized across sections of society people were there out there. We could see. Farmers on the highways providing food to migrant workers and all. And similarly, in my workspace also, because we started working way back in March for the truck drivers who were stranded across. So we were not getting volunteers. So our own colleagues actually went out, and there was this spirit of reaching out to people who wanted. We also realized that a lot was required, because FaceTime is fine, but people were missing physical presence of. So emotionally, people were draining out. I My husband was here, stranded in Delhi. I was there with my parents in their 80s and my children in Pune. And yes, I had this privilege, and I decided to shift back to Delhi. That was the moment when I realized this lady who had just started coming in mid of to our house, and we were the only ones who allowed her to come. That his husband got stranded in Bengal. And I think those are little things that, what pains me that was deciding to come back here, and she would have no job, no support around. And before I came here, I made it sure that her husband is there, and he joined her. But at the same time, this has further pushed a lot of people. For example, job. I see all the helps around here in Delhi also. Their children are suffering because they online classes are not so much apt also, because even if they are trying to arrange for mobiles and tabs, but still it is difficult. So I think there's a lot that, as people, we all are working, but at the same time these children keep coming to us for help, because they don't have anybody to guide to use those gadgets. So I personally feel that it is depressing, but yes, there is an opportunity, but then a large section of society, we really need to take it along.
Pratibha, Havovi.
Yeah,
May I?
I'll just quickly step in. I think, sorry, Pratibha, you want to go? Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I think everybody, I agree so much with what everybody has said. Even what Ritu, I'm going to call you Ritu now. Sorry, what has been talking about, started with this entire thing about, yes, there is a sense that we've been in this together, and yet there is a sense of growing realization as the months passed that together space was very different for different groups of people, and those two things coexist. Those two feelings coexist. But you asked where we and how we coped personally, Zama, and I want to share very honestly that I don't know as a family how we got through the first 3 months. I don't know how we managed to stay together, how we managed not to murder each other, how we managed not to get into raging fights. I mean, if we went through 48 hours without a major meltdown in the house, and mostly the meltdowns were from the above 40s and not from the under 10s, it was a big deal. And it was because both my husband and I work in the sector. Both our organizations were heavily into relief work. We had pivoted into the use of technology and whatnot, and there were all kinds of stories coming out about how girls in institutions, institutions where they were being cared for after they had been rescued, what kind of support they needed. Their cases had come to a stop, so our teams were on it all the time. Our children who have disability, who come to the school that we run, they didn't have any support at all. Those who had got hearing aids or cochlear implants weren't able to get any therapy. So it just felt like a barrage, and it felt like there's no scope for me to stop, any of us to stop. It's not an opting out or pausing is not an option. And I think because we put that kind of pressure on ourselves, so we got through that period, but I think at great cost to the family, to one's own family. I think in after that, after about June or July, when we got used to the whole culture of working from home and things like that, that's when I began to put some boundaries in place for myself, allow staff boundaries, to be very honest, because if I'm not putting boundaries for myself, I'm not allowing staff their boundaries either, to be allowing that, and to just get a little kinder within the home, because we were so busy responding outside. I didn't realize that there's a 10-year-old in the house or a 9-year-old in the house and a dog in the house, and they require your kindness, perhaps, and your partner. That's another thing. But it was not pretty for a while.
No, I think we all went through that at a personal level. I know a lot of you personally, and I know we all did go through the similar situation. And you're so right, Havovi. I mean, I can just imagine knowing your work and others' work, how taxing it would have been. I have to say, I was a bit more at ease because we were starting up, and fortunately, the pressures were not so high. But yes, at home, it was. And yeah, and as Manisha said, and as that Tu said, there have been two sides. One is to see this entire thing that how work can be done together. There is office space, and the need to be at a certain place to do certain work is really not that important. Spaces can be rethought, and yet on the other side, the divide has just become so much larger. And if you're willing to see, it was at our doorstep. We didn't have to go very far away to see that divide. So I'm not done yet. I know Pratibha has to say. I still have to hear from Pratibha because her work again, I'm sure, must have brought up many challenges. Pratibha, could you please go ahead? Hello, your mic is frozen. Pratibha, can you hear us?
Sorry, I think I lost everyone.
I was just saying,
Yeah.
would you like to share something
Yes.
you went through?
Yes.
Great
So
fun.
actually, at a personal level, I think being a little privileged, I enjoyed the work from home. When I'm a visiting faculty, I tend to spend a lot of time traveling to different colleges across the city. So that extra time that I got, I really enjoyed. But I don't want to talk about that because at the same time, I saw my hired help going through hell at home in the slums. So, I mean, that was, as most of you all have put it, that there were two sides to that. But I think what really got unleashed during this time was creativity. And at a personal and professional level, I saw that happening. So, for example, we deal with solar solutions in rural India. So, we also light up schools for better lighting, for e learning, and all of that. So, we had the e learning module, but we could not get them to get smartphones. And these are really below poverty line children. Many of them are shepherds, you know, they live in the mountains, they don't have access to the school. And of course, soon came the monsoons. So summer was okay because schools were closed. But come June, there was heavy rains, and this particular part of Palghar where we work gets rain as heavy as Cherrapunji. So one of the things we came out with was converting. So we have a very good on-ground partner and a couple of members of my team sat down and converted that MP4 content into MP3. And we managed to get our vendor to give us a solar lantern that gets an SD card holder. So I have some beautiful images of, you know, shepherd boys sitting on the mountain slopes listening to education on a portable solar lantern. So that was one very, very uplifting experience, unleashing creativity to sort of find solutions for them. And the other thing was very touching for me because through April, at the height of the lockdown, we were in the midst of a project, and this village had no water, and we were trying to do solar water lifting. And by 5th of May, when it's the worst time for them, I must say that our team, our vendors team actually, because they go install the grid, managed to get extra permissions from the collector, and they executed that project. And through the month of May, that village, which was a really remote village in Bharat, which India has forgotten about, got water. And to me, those little things keep me alive and, you know, make me feel there's hope for the future. If we can just shift our focus from the problems we have to the solutions we can bring about, I think that shift, more to do with purpose, helps.
That's so true, Pratibha. And in fact, that was going to be, as we're coming to an end, unfortunately. I mean, almost 50 minutes have passed. And honestly, I don't feel I've been here 50 minutes. I have to say, I was really nervous about this, but I think it's been so good hearing all of you that 50 minutes just seem to have gone away. But yeah, as you said, this is something which I wanted to come up and end with. That what is it that we think we need to do? We're really at the turn of the year, and I really hope that it's a much better year for all of us, for every stream of society, every stream in our society. Just one word, and I think we can 1 word, 2 words, and we can sum it up. We'll have 10 minutes more. So please feel free again, everybody, to share your thoughts for the coming years and hopefully a COVID-free year from now. I mean, not that overnight something's going to change, but as it changes, let me put it like that.
Shall I
Pratibha,
start? Yeah.
yes.
So I think one four-letter word that I'd like to say is will. If you have the will, in spite of the government, in spite of lack of manpower, technology, everything, if you have the will, you can create solutions. So you just have to stop, cribbing, complaining, roll up your sleeves and get out there. Fortunately or unfortunately, we live in a country where you just peep out of the window and there's a cause waiting for you. So I think you just have to get out there and don't worry about scale of impact. I feel even if you can make an incremental difference in someone's life, that's good enough. So that's my little take on it.
That's so true. I mean, every little thing matters. And I think willpower we have seen in the last 1 year. If we weren't aware of it earlier, I think last 1 year, one thing that it has taught us is that with the will, we can, I guess, overcome this. We did. I think so far we have managed to stay in it because of the will. Ritu, Ranu, anybody?
Yeah,
Go,
I'll
go
go.
ahead.
So I think for me, it is empathy. I think going ahead, that's something that I think we definitely need to make it a part of ourselves. And I would agree with Pratibha when she says that there's a solution to everything. There's an opportunity in what comes to us sometimes, and I've been through very difficult times personally too. I've always seen the opportunity rather than go down saying that, oh, now what do I do? So I think that, and the third thing, I think, again, I mean, Pratibha talked about it, which I agree so much, is influence. I may not be able to change the world. I cannot change the world, but can I influence the maid who comes home? Can I do something for her that she is a stronger woman? Simple. And that's how I live my life. And I think that should be what each one of us should be doing. It's very difficult for me to, make any changes beyond that. If I'm able to do that much, at least I will sleep a better person. That's all.
So
Yes,
for
please.
me, it's love. Actually, for me, it's very very important that I see happiness all around, especially in my slum areas where children are really suffering. So, like I can give them the smartphones, each and every child, so that he is continuing with his studies and all the values which we can give on those smartphones because it's going to last another maybe 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, I don't know. So I really want them really, really happy. I want people to join me work and make sure that thousands and thousands of children who are going through hell right now, there's a happiness on their faces. I really want to see them really happy. And once I think we need to spread more and more love all around, and a hope. Yes, that's very important because if there's a hope in their minds, they will be, happier. So that's for me, 100% only and only. I want to see these children very happy. Yes.
Ranu, I think you're
For
very.
me, I think there are three terms that I would like to emphasize on: empathy, innovation, collaboration.
Sorry, I
I
didn't.
personally feel empathy, innovation, and collaboration, because that's how I feel that that is the way forward. Because until unless we are there to understand and there has to be a will again, but at the same time, innovations, and we've seen handful of people going innovation. That's the way people can survive in today's time. They need to unlearn, relearn, and you have to change the way we used to look at things and solutions. And then definitely collaborations, because resources we know are limited. There is no point, duplicity will not take us anywhere. So collaborate.
Havovi?
I think I just love the words that everyone has used, and there's not a single word I would take out of that list. And the only thing that I think is that we have to communicate more, communicate better. It's never okay not to communicate, and even if that means that I communicate by donating 100 rupees, that's fine. If it's communicating and helping someone in my own way, that's fine. If it's communicating my own struggle, that's fine as well. But now, given that we don't have the luxury of being with each other physically, it's even more important to be able to share things with each other, because that will help us do what Ranu said just now. The whole collaboration piece will only come when we know what that empathy will create. I just love the words we've all put together. It's really uplifting.
Manisha?
I totally agree with everybody and all the words used. And I just want to add that, we should just try to do our best in our sphere of influence whenever we get the chance. And I think that will be a good enough start. So it's really been, for me, this year has been something which has been enlightening, as somebody earlier said. First 3 months was a surprise. We didn't kill each other. Same story at my end. I'm still surprised my 2 kids are alive. I haven't killed them. So for me, that was a big achievement at the end of the first 3 months. So I think, we try to do our best every single day should be the motto.
Zamrooda, just one thing. The tagline of this festival, only art can heal the world. I think if we can convert social kindness into a fine art, how to give, what to give, you don't have to have money to tear a check. You can give your time, your talent, so many ways to give. So I think social kindness can become a fine art, and that would heal the world.
Pratibha, I really don't know what else to say after that. You've done it for me. You've summarized everything for me. Honestly, you've made my job so much. But it is true. I mean, art, if social kindness can become the art and be as popular as art is in different forms today, we would definitely be a better world. I believe in that. Definitely. I mean, art is very close to me, as you can see right behind me. But other than that, also. But yes, I mean, as everybody has said, the kind of words and emotions being used, the year has taught us a lot, and it definitely, I hope we keep that learning with us as we go ahead. And I'm not just talking of the 7 of us here, I'm talking of everybody, because it's very easy also to forget and move on. Unfortunately, that's also something we've learned. I have learned in my 47 years that it's not easy to forget. I mean, it's not difficult to forget, sorry. And we do often, but I hope whatever good we've learned in this year, we do keep that with us and stay with the social kindness, which I think it has brought up in many of us, most of us for that matter. I have seen, as most of you have said and felt, the kindness has taken a different meaning. I'm not saying it wasn't there earlier. This year has done something. And I think that may have been a good point, maybe a turning point, and hope it does stay like that. I know I'm being very optimistic, but I would like to be that and stay with that. I think that's about it from me. Um, we pretty much at the end of it. It's 6:59. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Jairangam, for giving us this space. It's been so good to hear all of you and your thoughts. Once again, so glad you could make it at such a short notice. It's been a great evening and a great 1 hour.
Thank you, Zamrooda.
Thank you,
Zamrooda.
Zama. Thank you, everybody.
You were great as a moderator.
Thanks, everyone.
Make moves, but what to do. I know you all so dearly.
Thanks a lot, and thanks everyone.
Thanks. Lovely
Bye-bye.
seeing everybody. Bye.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Nice.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.